This variant is a cause for concern, not a cause for panic.
U.S. President Joe Biden urged Americans on Monday not to panic over the new COVID-19 variant known as Omicron and said the United States was working with pharmaceutical companies to make contingency plans if new vaccines were needed. Biden said the country would not go back into lockdowns and promised to lay out his strategy on Thursday for combating the pandemic over the winter.
The very day the World Health Organization identified the new variant, I took immediate steps to restrict travel from countries in Southern Africa. But while we have that travel restrictions can slow the speed of Omicron, it cannot prevent it. But here's what it does. It gives us time. It gives us time to take more actions, to move quicker, to make sure people understand you have to get your vaccine. You have to get the shot. You have to get the booster.
Biden said it was inevitable that Omicron cases, which were first detected in Southern Africa, would soon emerge in the United States. He said officials were still studying Omicron, but believed that existing vaccines would continue to protect against severe disease. But Biden said his administration was working with vaccine makers Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson just in case.
And I will also direct the FDA and the CDC to use the fastest process available without cutting any corners for safety to get such vaccines approved and on the market if needed.
A U.S. travel ban took effect earlier on Monday, blocking most visitors from 8 southern African nations from entering the country.
We are deeply disappointed by the decision of several countries to prohibit travel.
Despite criticism from leaders in southern Africa on the new travel restrictions, the White House Monday said the measures weren't about punishing any nation, but about protecting Americans. Biden said the restrictions were intended to buy the country time to get more people vaccinated, despite considerable vaccine hesitancy in the United States, with just 59% of all Americans fully vaccinated. Nearly 782,000 people have died from COVID-19 in the United States, according to a Reuters tally.
The order of the court is that 1. The appeal is dismissed with cost to the respondent, but not to the amicus. 2.
Inside a Manhattan federal courthouse closed off to video cameras, jurors on Monday heard opening statements in the criminal trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's former employee, one-time romantic partner, and alleged sex crimes co-conspirator, in the latest chapter in a closely watched case that has captured the imaginations of people around the world about the exploits of the rich and powerful, and has at the same time inspired victims of sexual abuse to speak out. On day 1 of the trial, the prosecution told the jury that Maxwell and Epstein were partners in crime, saying she, quote, preyed on vulnerable young girls, manipulated them, and served them up to be sexually abused by the now-deceased financier, which involved erotic massages that the prosecutors said Maxwell was sometimes even in the room for. Maxwell's lawyer said the sex abuse charges against her were for things Epstein did, and that the memories of the accusers had been manipulated by lawyers who encouraged them to sue for damages. The British socialite is on trial for allegedly recruiting and grooming 4 young girls for Epstein to abuse between 1994 and 2004. Epstein died in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex abuse charges. His crimes and death have spawned conspiracy theories and have been the subject of several lawsuits, podcasts, and documentaries. The prosecution's first witness, a pilot for Epstein, described Maxwell's relationship to Epstein as more personal than business. 4 accusers are also expected to testify against Maxwell at the trial, which is expected to last until at least early January. Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to 8 charges of sex trafficking and other crimes. She faces up to 80 years in prison if convicted.
Stocks bounced back Monday from the miserable sell-off at the end of last week as cooler heads prevailed over a possible turn in the health crisis. The Dow rallied 236 points, but that was just a mere fraction of Friday's decline. the worst all year. The S&P 500 rose 60 points, and with a gain of 291 points, the Nasdaq nearly took back all of Friday's losses. David Bonson, Chief Investment Officer at the Bonson Group, said Friday's market nosedive was an overreaction.
Just as much as I'm somewhat sanguine on what the variant news will end up being, there's still a lot of uncertainty too. So some people still may not want to get fully back into the water. They want to wait and hear some additional information. But I think that the headline issue Friday drove some panic selling, and now you have a partial normalization playing out today.
A rebound in the price of oil gave energy stocks a boost. Top officials from OPEC and OPEC Plus said they weren't worried that the new COVID-19 variant, Omicron, would dampen demand. Crude oil prices climbed, and so did the stock price for oil majors like ExxonMobil. Retailers were a key sector to watch as Cyber Monday got underway. There were some concerns after Black Friday posted the first ever drop in digital sales compared to the prior year. But other early indications on the start of the key holiday shopping season were less somber. U.S. shoppers spent 14% more on merchandise, excluding automobiles, during Black Friday weekend compared to the same holiday weekend a year earlier, according to MasterCard Spending Pulse. Shares of e-commerce leader Amazon rallied 1.6% on the day. Twitter had a volatile session. Jack Dorsey announced he stepped down as CEO and was replaced by Chief Technology Officer Parag Agrawal. Shares ended the day lower after an initial pop.
The U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear arguments on Wednesday in the most important abortion case in decades as the state of Mississippi puts up a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade, the 1973 decision that solidified a constitutional right to abortion. If the court overturns Roe, as some supporters fear, it could turn back the clock on abortion access in Mississippi and other states to a time when most of the U.S. criminalized abortion. As a woman who found herself needing an abortion in 1973, it's a time Barbara Phillips remembers well.
It was devastating, and I was desperate.
Months before she was set to start law school, Phillips was shocked to learn she was pregnant.
I was using birth control responsibly. It failed. I'm supposed to be going to Northwestern in August, and I'm pregnant.
Then 24, Phillips lived in a small town in Mississippi where the procedure was still not legally available. With help from a feminist group, Phillips traveled to New York for an abortion.
I was determined to decide for myself what I wanted to do with my life and with my body.
Now 72, she does not regret her decision. Phillips attended Northwestern Law School and became a civil rights lawyer with a long career. Years later, she had a son. But nearly half a century later, Americans are deeply divided on abortion rights. National Right to Life President Carol Tobias said her organization was excited that the Supreme Court had agreed to hear the case.
We would love, of course, to see the court take this even further and use it, if not to completely overturn Roe, at least as a way to start to overturn Roe, because that needs to happen. But we're very excited.
Mississippi is among 12 states with so-called trigger laws designed to ban abortion if Roe v. Wade is overturned. More states would likely follow. With U.S. abortion rights under threat, Phillips, like many civil rights advocates, fears the consequences of a return to pre-Roe times.
But I'm afraid that many more women and girls will be in back alleys with coat hangers. You know, I worry we're going to find them on country roads, dead.